Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. We are back at it with more bite-sized business advice, and I have the guest today, the only one. If you never listened to another episode, that's totally fine with me. We have one of my favorite human beings on the planet, and the only reason why I say one of is because my business partner and my wife will probably see this very clip on the internet. So I'm not going to say my absolute favorite, but you know where you stand, brother. Wei, before we get into this, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And I gotta say, I love that intro, especially the whole matrixy background piece right there, because that's what I'm all about. I'm all about disconnecting amazing people from the matrix of what is to what isn't, so that we can plug them into what is, right?
Yeah, Wei made me watch The Matrix a couple months ago. Full disclosure, I don't get out much. He totally messed up my world. And yes, he will unplug you from The Matrix today. And we're going to trigger you a little bit. We're going to talk about how the root cause of all the challenges in your business is probably not what you think it is. And it's probably going to piss you off, but that's okay. We're going to fix it by the end of the episode. So just hang with us. We're going to piss you off a little bit and then wrap it up. So Wei, let's get to it. Let's get right to it. What is, for most people, the root cause of most of the challenges in their business?
Yeah, the title basically says that it's not what you think it is, but most people know what it is. They're just not really willing to own the fact that that's what it is. Now, our clients, the ones that you and I sometimes mutually share, or the type of people that we would like to work with, they do embrace that. And when they do, life is amazing. Life changes, right? I work in the area of human optimization. And so I'm all about giving credit where credit is due. Where a company succeeds, the root cause is the people. Where a company fails, the root cause is the people. You can blame systems and processes and technology and anything that's non-human all you want, but at the end of the day, it still requires a human being to execute. It still requires a human being to maintain. It still requires a human being to optimize. And the reason why it's triggering is because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, and you and I both know this, we will get ourselves to a point where we're stuck and we're avoiding the truth. And the truth is that we're part of the problem. And that's really what it is. I love starting off I used to speak all over the world before the pandemic hit and everything. And I love the talks that I would give where I get to start off saying, this presentation will probably trigger you. So feel free to leave at any time, but recognize this. If you are triggered, that's a good thing. That means there's an amazing opportunity for you, because the unconscious mind won't let you get triggered unless it's ready to let it go. Take that in for a moment. When you're triggered by something, that is your unbiased, unconscious mind allowing yourself to activate something that you already know how to be triggered about, so that in that moment, you have the best opportunity to let it go. So I am hoping that somewhere during our conversation today, that you do get triggered, because that's your mind saying, okay, cool. Let's let that one go, because that one does not belong inside us anymore.
Yeah, I love that. And there's quite honestly probably nobody better at triggering people than it seems like me recently, because my whole focus with this kind of triggering is not to be mean or insensitive, but it's to open people's eyes, especially business owners, because like you said, we work with mutual clients. We work with clients who look the same, their businesses, the industry, the size, the structure, and they fall into these buckets of very common problems. The root cause of a lot of the challenges is always the people. It's either the leader or the team.
Right.
So when I go out there and I want to trigger people, if you will, not intentionally, but just disrupt the way they think, it's hard for people to digest that. So when you say it's a people problem, I'm curious, as a business leader, when we hear that, we have the immediate reaction of saying, I knew it was my employees. They all suck. Can you bring this back and say why we need to look in the mirror as well at the same time?
Yes, because the people that have the greatest and the fastest impact on extricating a business from a challenging circumstance isn't from the ground up, because there's a trickle down effect. And I got to tell you, leaders who are listening to this episode, if you are observing some kind of a weird, funky activity or behavior in your constituents or in your employees or in your teams, guess what? That is literally a reflection of something that's going on in you. It's your company. If you own it, your people are part of it. You've established the vibe, the frequency, the harmony, if you will, or disharmony. But it starts with the leader. And that's why whenever we work with clients, whenever you and I work together and we are working with clients and stuff like that, we always start with the leadership team down. Change happens so much faster, so much more efficiently when we start at the top down. We used to start from the bottom up. Oh God, that was a grind. And that's always been a grind. It's like, so when I work, some clients of mine have children and they inevitably say, hey, Wei, can you help our children? Right. I said, only if you're willing to recognize that you have an impact on why they are where they are today. It's like, oh, sure. And then when I get introduced to new clients that want me to fix their kids, I said, how willing are you to be part of that process? Oh, I don't have time. I don't. Then we're not working together, because the people under you, so to speak, are simply reflections. You recruited them. You set the tone of what it means to hire these people. So guess what? Your vibe is key. How optimized you are as a leader is key. And that's why we always start with the leader. And we optimize it. There's a ripple effect that happens, right? And this is a phenomenon that happens in nature too. I just had this conversation earlier today with somebody else. It's called nodal impact. Every human being is a node on this planet, and how we show up will literally passively or aggressively, explicitly impact every other node human being around them. And if you are seeing these people every single day, how you show up as a leader, how productive you are, how optimized you are, is going to affect both consciously and unconsciously your entire organization. There are sometimes, and you've seen it too, right, with your clients, all you have to do is shift the leader and everything else just kind of falls into place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting because I, as a matter of fact, just had this conversation, which I shared briefly with you before we started recording,
Yeah.
is there's this subconscious almost fear or just a questioning of the ability of the leader. And we're talking like multi 7-figure business owner. And I see
Right.
this a lot. I'm sure you do too, where they just don't know if they have what it takes to get past the next level. And in this very experience, this is his fourth company, taking to just over 7 figures in the last decade. And every single time it stops at the same point. So when we're talking about here, the topic of the episode, the root cause of your challenges,
Yep.
talk to me about that. I mean, that's a pattern.
Yep, that is absolutely a pattern. And me being a background in computer science and engineer, UCLA people are like, why is he using our major doing this? It's all about pattern recognition, right? And if you want to go existential on things, nature in its fundamental state is chaos. And when it creates and develops things, that's naturally, it's because a pattern emerges. And that's when creation happens, right? Before we were born and created, we existed in chaos, but then we came into an order of a zygote, right? So what happens is when we're talking about from a revenue standpoint, so now we're seeing a pattern, right? Every time he hits a certain threshold, there's a self-sabotaging component of either being financially catatonic, or you just jump and create another company thinking that's going to solve the problem. When in reality, what's going on, and I did this in my older programs, which is around prosperity work, which is that there is a container that we all become adults having. And if we don't understand what that natural container of safety is, so that we know how to pull the fence post out and expand our territory of revenue flow, prosperity flow, or what is, then we're always going to hit that threshold, and then we're going to like basically stay in that game, and we'll self-sabotage. I had the same thing happen for a long time where, my father was a corporate guy, and from what I remembered as my childhood, the most he's ever made in a year was like $250,000 a year. But then, they couldn't promote him anymore, and he refused to be promoted, so they just bonused him a bunch of stocks. But when I was a young kid, I didn't understand the whole point, so all I knew was $250,000. Well, oddly enough, for a long time, when I went out into the world and started making money, every time I went past $250,000, I found some way to self-sabotage myself to fall under that limit again, right? What you're observing here in this phenomenon with that example is so prevalent and happens so much. And we think that, oh, it's the wrong business, it's the wrong product, it's the wrong system, it's the wrong people, whatever the case may be. Yes, but the core problem is the tone you as a leader have set as the limitation for yourself. And what needs to happen is to, one, recognize how that limitation has served you, because it did serve a purpose at some point, and how willing you are to let that go so that you can expand to the next level of existence, if you will, or success.
So that's the trigger. You have to find what triggers you, what's the root of that, and then get past it. So I'm curious, when your company's name is Limitless Leader, so how do we become limitless? Because they're there, and it's really a matter of when you hit the limits and how you interact with them, whether it's selling the company, killing the company, whatever that may be. We see that example a lot. So what is the series of steps? I know you have a very complex process, but kind of just outline the steps for me to hitting that threshold, identifying it, and getting past it. What do you do with leaders and leadership teams to help them optimize their structure?
Yeah, and it ultimately starts with the leader, because the leader will make micro decisions that will keep the company at a certain point. And how we do that, first and foremost, we have to get to the baseline of understanding how is this leader as an instrument or as a vehicle, because our technology that we use is based on physical law. So we have to look at the human being from a physical standpoint and how they are naturally designed to succeed limitlessly. Okay, this reminds me of, I just thought about, I'm going to create some more content around this, but I was driving and I was thinking, how do I best explain what we help people do? So one of my favorite tools in the kitchen is called a cleaver, or a butcher knife, right? It's one of those, it's not a regular knife. It's one of those.
A little serial killery way.
That's very Chinese. That's one of our, I watched my mom growing up using that. And we all know, like a butcher knife or a cleaver inside a kitchen is designed to do what? It's designed to cut, right? And sometimes it's to cut really difficult things, right? Because it's got a heft to it and it's got an edge to it and so on and so forth. But do you know what else I've used it for? Sometimes, how hard it is to kind of like, don't look at me like that.
I'm just saying, I made a comment before and you said, what else do I use it for?
So garlic, it's hard to peel, especially when you get down to the skin. And the last thing you want to do is serve it when you're eating that really waxy thing. And peeling with your hand is kind of annoying. So do you know what I do? I put a clove on the side, and I use the side of the butcher knife and I smash it. Makes it a lot easier because it's got the heft, it's got the area to do it. Do you know what I also use it for? Sometimes when I'm making a steak, I flip it to the dull edge and I tenderize it, right?
Interesting.
So this is a multi-use knife. Is it the best use of the knife, however? Think of an entrepreneur in the beginning when they're bootstrapping, they're starting up, they're trying to be as versatile as possible. Now, let's say I have a kitchen and I'm making 5 dishes at once. Is it the best use of a cleaver to sit there and just use the edge of it to smash all these garlic and to tenderize all these steaks? No, that's why they have tenderizers. That's why they have peelers dedicated just for garlic, right? When your company gets to a certain size and you're used to being that multi-purpose, multi-use cleaver, and you keep doing that, you're literally the bottleneck of the company's ability to grow. So what we want to do in the very beginning is that, well, what is the instrument that you are that is the best utilization of you as a leader in this organization? Like, I had a client that insisted he needed to be CEO, and that was what was keeping the company stuck. When we moved into client relations, because that's what he was really, really good at, His company grew. We put someone else as CEO. The leader, the owner, had to get out of his or her own way. And he's like, well, I own the company. Shouldn't I be CEO? You could be anything you want in the company. You could be the janitor and still own the company. Whatever contributes best, the best use of you, as a lot of people in the industry like to call it, your zone of genius. We literally use our technology to scientifically elicit that from every human being to identify what kind of unique leadership style you are. Once you start to do that, that's how you become limitless. Think about that. There's things that you can do day in, day out that will never exhaust you. Well, use that as what you do every single day in your business. Build your business around that as you, as a nucleus of being able to do that one thing really, really well. Fill in the gaps as what you would do. Fill in the gaps with all those areas that you don't do as well, like tenderizing meat with a cleaver or peeling garlic, and have someone who actually is really good at that do that. Now you create limitless possibilities.
I love this example because it happens all the time. So the structure we use, as you are familiar with, but for you, the listener, when we start working with a client, we usually start with some sort of a 90-day sprint to really just rock your world, get you in line, and make sure you're focused and on the right path, get you that quick, definable result. In that period, all we do is we want to focus on 3 core things that are going to immediately drive your business forward. And the pushback that we get every single time is, but I have so much to do. I have so many other things I need to do. And we say, no, you don't. You're cleavering. Your words, not mine. But I'm going to use that analogy. But that's what they think they have to do, is they have to do all these things because they are that utility player. They're used to doing all of the operations. We say, no, you do these things. And if they continue to push back, I say, go see Wei, because I've had enough of your garbage and you need to be optimized as a human being. So Wei, that is the absolute perfect example. But I'm curious. So when you do optimize somebody and they're in that position, is it possible, like how many levels up can you go? I'm thinking when you're a solopreneur, you're doing everything, you're the cleaver, you're doing all the stuff, even up to that past the 7-figure range, that's where you're focused on being the CEO, being the leader. How many more levels can you get people to go? Like, is it truly limitless, or do you start to say like your ideal role or structure in this company is really over here? You love sales, it's VP of sales. Like, where do you take people?
You mean after they get into their ideal situation?
Yes.
It really depends on that. It depends on their vision. Our main focus, as you know, is that we help entrepreneurial leaders structure or get to a point where they can take 1 to 2 weeks off every single month, every month, right? And that proposal is actually an exercise in and of itself. And so if you're listening to us, I challenge you with that, because if you're listening to us and say, hey, I would love that, right? Because the next question I would ask, well, what would you do with that time? Because that literally is what keeps people from having that. I had a client that says, I would take a vacation every month. And you would never get tired of it? No. Okay, let's do it. Well, 3 months later, I'm tired of it. I need to do something else with my time. And it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? You don't want to sell your business. Can we focus on growing it? Sure. But now you have 2 weeks every month to just focus on what? Growing your business. That's it. And that's really kind of, now, not everybody goes through that. A lot of people go, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on vacation this month, but next month I'm going to completely focus on growing the business. I was like, perfect. So it just depends. It just depends on where they are, what their vision is, what they want to do. But at the end of the day, if you and I could free someone up to have 2 weeks off every single month to do whatever they want with that time as a leader of their business, that's the fun part. It's like, well, what are you going to do? But it also could be a triggering part, because I've seen it trigger the heck out of people. It's like, I'm so useless. I'm so worthless. I'm not working hard enough. I don't deserve this. That stuff gets kicked up sometimes too.
Well, it goes back to the cleaver analogy, because what is it designed for? It's to cut, like you said. Right. So when you optimize somebody, or we're really before you optimize them, but you say, okay, 2 weeks out of the month, you don't have to go on vacation, but you have to do the CEO work. You have to focus on growing the company and being a leader, and you can't do all the other crap that you're used to. It's when the knife doesn't know how to cut because
Yeah.
it's been so used to doing everything else. That's where people start to get triggered. At least I find when you tell them to do that stuff, and they need that trigger ultimately to knock them out of that cycle. So
Yeah. No, I love that analogy because what you said right there just revealed something as well, is that sometimes they say, well, I'm not that good at cutting. I said, you know why? Even though they are the cleaver of the butcher knife, right? Because you were doing all these other things. You never took the time to sharpen your blade.
yeah,
So now you're cutting with the dull blade, thinking that you're not meant to cut. And now you're like, well, I'm useless. And then it gets to this, and this is the dangerous part, right? For entrepreneurs, if you're not paying attention, if you're not doing the personal work and optimizing yourself on a regular, because like me, for example, and you as well, probably, I will never be without a coach or mentor in my life ever again, just because I know what happens. You get stuck in this vortex because we have so many things that we need to do. You don't sharpen your blade. You forget how to use your blade properly, and you're using for all these random things. Next thing you know, you're trying to build a house with your butcher knife because you can use a flat end to kind of nail things in. Now you're doing all these random things that have nothing to do with the optimal use of you, and you wonder why your business is stagnant. You wonder why you're feeling stuck. You wonder why you're feeling burnt out, because you're doing double work and you're doing work that you really shouldn't even be touching, just because it's called adaptation. And human beings are so good at that. We're really good at adapting. That's how people can get addicted to drugs, which is a toxic thing for the human body. We're naturally adapted. We're naturally designed to be very adaptable, but doesn't mean we should do everything that we adapt to, because then we'll always be constantly in survival mode. And you and I have seen it. People who are making millions, and people are saying, "Oh wow, they made it," but they're still living in survival mode, and that's what's keeping their company from going to the next level of limitless possibilities.
it's true. It happens all the time. If you were triggered, if you were provoked a little bit, or if you're like, oof, that's me, that is faux show me. Well, Wei's got a little gift for you. It's going to be in the description down below, wherever you're watching or listening. But Wei, tell me about this really quick, because I think it's a really cool start to just see where you are in this path to getting freedom, getting business freedom, and unlocking that next level of growth, both for your business and for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm at a point in my life where it's not about, okay, you got to opt in. This is no opt-in. You get it free. You don't even need to talk to me. Okay. But what it is something that we give to all of our clients as a way to do a quick little check-in. It's a self-assessment that's based off the indicators that we've observed in real time with our clients over the last 20, 30 years, about how ready you are, how scalable is your business, how much time freedom is your business capable of providing you at this moment in time. It's a snapshot. So you can take, it's just 10 questions. We distilled it down. And then at the end of that, it'll calculate the score for you. So you don't even have to add it yourself. And then you can just see where you fall in that self-assessment. Now, if you do want to dive a little bit deeper and just have a little meet and greet with me, there is a link there that if you want to have a chat. But if you don't, that's totally fine. You can just, I think the link and there's a code for you to kind of, get in there. But other than that, that's what that is. It's the business scalability and time freedom assessment, self-assessment.
I love it. All that's in the description down below. The link with the code to get in. No emails required. I love that. No gatekeeping. Thank you, Wei. Thank you for being here. This was fantastic. For you listening, I want to know. Put it in the comments. Hey, were you triggered? Like we gotta know. Were you triggered a little bit? We're sorry, but we want to wrap that up.
But it's
for
a
you.
good thing.
It is. It's a very good thing, and we can lead you on that path to fix it very quickly. So that's the most important takeaway. But what do you want to hear from Wei again? Because I'm positive he's going to be back. I'm going to be on his show very soon as well. So we'll put the link down there for that if it comes out first. What do you want to hear? What is the challenge in growing your business and optimizing yourself, optimizing your people and your team? People touch everything in business. Yes, we're in a world of automation, but people run everything. Wei can help you with that. He can help you with the human op. That's what he does. Wherever you are, thank you. Make sure you subscribe. This is fantastic. Thanks for listening to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, and we'll see you on